Well, why don't we go ahead and get started here? It's late in the day, so we'll try and start on time and finish on time here. My name is Brian Larson. I'm the Chief Creative Officer, that's what CCO stands for, and one of the owners of Superior Consulting Services out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. And we're going to be talking about role-playing dimensions. I'm hearing already that that is an issue for some people here in tabular modeling, so hopefully we'll have some good ideas that you can go back and check out and give a try. Housekeeping here, make sure that cell phones, other devices are silenced as we begin. Be sure and explore everything here at PASS. Hopefully you've already started doing that and had some great sessions today. So a little bit about myself. As I said, I'm from Minneapolis. I've been with Superior Consulting Services for almost 23 years now. I don't know how that happened, but that's how it is. I had the opportunity to serve as a consultant to Microsoft and actually write the original PDF renderer for reporting services back in 2002, 2003, which was a great challenge, a fun project to participate in. So that is, I do actually go back to the roots of Microsoft data visualization with reporting services there right from the beginning. I have also had the privilege to write for McGraw-Hill Education on the Microsoft BI stack and reporting services. Have a new book on Power BI that is coming out in about a month, so just in time for holiday gift giving. So if you're looking for something to get for your friends and relatives, it's already available for pre-order on Amazon, so check it out. But do seriously give that a look over if you're looking for a resource on Power BI. It tries to cover everything from interaction with the visualizations to then how to create visualizations, then onward to how to create data models within Power BI and working with DAX. So a little bit more about myself as we get started. My wife and I decided we'd take the opportunity provided by the PASS Summit to do a road trip. As I said, I'm from Minneapolis, so road trip from Minneapolis to Seattle. But we took this road trip from Minneapolis to Seattle. So if you want someone to help out with that, the geospatial stuff, I obviously am very talented at navigation. Actually, what happened is it became, for you George R.R. Martin fans, it became a trip of ice and fire, dodging snowstorms in Denver and fires out in California, but it's been a fabulous trip. So enough about me. One more thing before we get into it. I do like a very interactive session, so if you have questions, if there's something that I'm not covering in enough detail, please raise a hand, shout out if I'm not looking your direction, and feel free to interrupt as we're going, because as people always say, if you're wondering something, other people in the room are probably wondering the same thing as well. So please interact as we go along. Our agenda today, we're talking about role-playing dimensions, and we'll look at what the issues are in tabular models. And then we'll look at 2, maybe even 2.5 solutions, depending on how you count it, for ways that we can deal with those role-playing dimensions in a tabular model. We'll look at one that is based on having multiple tables to play those different roles in our tabular model. And that solution is going to look fairly familiar to anyone who has worked on the multidimensional side of model building. It's very similar to how we approach role-playing dimensions in multidimensional models. The other solution that we'll look at is going to use DAX functions, DAX expressions, to handle that role playing and get the performance that we need. And we'll look at then where each of these solutions runs into some difficulties, where it really shines as we do different types of analysis. All right. Okay, let's switch out of here then, and we'll come over to, actually we'll start here. All right, so another thing about me is I am a frustrated science fiction author. I actually took a year off way back when and tried being the operative word, tried to write some science fiction short stories. I sent them off to publishers and collected lots of rejection letters, and rightly so back then. So when I got the chance to write a technology book for McGraw-Hill, I got my revenge on all those publishers that didn't. I had to, of course, create a fictional company for all of my scenarios in my step-by-step illustrations. So that company is Galactic Delivery Services. Galactic Delivery Services is an interplanetary delivery service. So that means that they have next-day delivery, they have same-day delivery, and because they have faster than the speed of light transports, they have previous day delivery, when you absolutely positively have to have it there yesterday. So we've all needed that, right? So because they can offer that type of service, their business is taking off, pun intended there, and so they need lots of different reporting. The data model for Galactic Delivery Services, at least the parts of it that we're going to concern ourselves with today, consists of just 5 tables that we'll have to worry about. There is a delivery table that has the information about each and every package that is delivered by Galactic Delivery Services. We've got a delivery status, whether it's been delivered, whether it's in transit, whether it was lost during delivery. We've got the type of service, which we won't need to worry about too much today. Then on the right side, your right, we've got 2 different role-playing tables that are giving us problems in this tabular model. First, we've got the date table, and there is a pickup date in our delivery table that we want to link to the date table. That's the date that the package was actually picked up for delivery from the sender. And then we have a delivery date. That is the date that it actually arrived at its destination. But as we know in tabular modeling, we can only have one relationship between 2 tables active at any given time. So that's an issue for us. But the same deal down here with planet. We've got a pickup planet where the delivery originated, and then of course we have the delivery planet where it actually ended up. Now I know planets, there are probably not many of you who are dealing with planets in your data models right now, right? But this is the same as if it was a state, if it was a country, we have those types of things. So let's go ahead and consider our first approach. The first option is to create multiple tables in our data model for one table for the pickup date, one table for the delivery date, one table for the pickup planet, one table for the delivery planet. And we can create those multiple tables using a number of different options. One possibility would be to create different physical tables back in our destination database, in our data warehouse here. We've got, in my SQL Server, I've got my Galactic data warehouse, and my date table. I could create a physical table for delivery date. I could create a physical table for pickup date. I can also create multiple views, and I've got some samples here where I've got a date delivery view and a date pickup view, both selecting from that physical date table. So I could pull each of those into my model. I can also pull the same physical table into the model twice and give it two different names. So those are all valid ways. My date table is not very large, so size, space is not a huge issue. Kind of however you want to manage that. If I was pulling in, say, a 1,000,000-row customer table because I had a ship to customer and a bill to customer, then I have to take a little more into account as to space and those types of things. So what we're going to do actually in this particular case is use another technique, and that is to create a calculated table using a DAX expression. So even though this is the multi-table solution that we're looking at, we're going to implement that table using DAX. So what I'm going to do first to implement that is I'm going to rename my date table, and I'm going to call this date-pickup. Let's put the dash in there so the rest of my expressions work. And I'm going to do the same thing down here with my planet table, the other role-playing table. I'm going to rename that and call that planet-pickup. Then I'm going to come to my modeling tab here and say that I want to create a new table. And that new table is going to be called date-pickup. And thank you. Delivery. And I promise I will cut and paste from here on out so you won't have to painfully watch me type this anymore. And what I'm going to do is actually simply reference my other table here, my date pickup table. That's all I need to do, and that DAX expression will pull in all of the data, all the columns from my other table in the model. Unfortunately, that process doesn't pull in some of the formatting that I've done on that table. For instance, I have sort columns set up on a number of my columns here. So I'm going to say that date name is going to be sorted by the date data type here, so it sorts correctly, not in alphabetical order. Same with year. We're going to sort that by the year sort. Quarter, we're going to sort by quarter sort, oddly enough, and month, of course, by month sort. And then I want to hide each of these sort columns in my report view. So that was already done in the original date table. I had to redo that in this table. And we're going to do the same thing again for my planet delivery. And that's simply going to equal my planet pickup table. Yes?
If you're matching calendars, if your pickup time or date is before your delivery date, and your delivery date is extended past the last pickup time, wouldn't you not be missing a data?
That's a great question. So if if my date table had been created just on the values that were in the delivery table for pickups, that would be an issue. The date table I'm manually creating, so I'm making sure that it goes from the first of a year to December 31st of that same year. And I have put enough days stocked into that table. So it goes from January 1st, 2013 to December 31st, 2015. That happens to be the range of the dates in this table. So yes, because I'm manually creating that, I know that my date tables are covering both all of my pickup dates and all of my delivery dates. But that is certainly something that you'd have to take into account if you were pulling it from the underlying data. Yeah?
Do you need to mark the delivery date as a date table?
If I'm going to use the time intelligence functions, yes. I'm not going to for this demo, but yes. In order for the time intelligence functions to work, yes, I have to mark that as a date table. Other questions? Yeah.
So if one of these was a larger table, when you're refreshing or processing this, does it bring in or still have to save that data twice?
No, it does not. It does not. It's happening internally. So that's why I like this solution. All right. And then the last thing I need to do is to track down those new tables and link them up here. So I've got, this is now my pickup date. So that should be linked to the pickup date here. I'm going to delete the other relationship that I no longer need. Okay, we have to delete this one. And then we have to make sure that this is now active. Go to properties here, make this relationship active. Okay. And my two new tables are wandering about out here, so we'll drag those over. And delivery date is going to come to my primary key here. Planet is going to, this is delivery planet, is going to come there. So now I have my role-playing tables all in place within my model. Let's go ahead and see if that worked. We'll create a new page here. I'm going to look here. I've got a measure which is simply the count of the deliveries that have occurred, and we'll slice that by the pickup month. One thing I should mention, notice when I created my role-playing tables, I kept date or planet at the beginning of the name. And I did that on purpose so that they sort together, so that all my date tables are going to end up together. Otherwise, I get a delivery date up here, and then I get a pickup date that's somewhere down lower in my list of tables. This way, they sort together, so it's easy to find, okay, I need a date. Which role am I wanting, pickup or delivery? And it's right there. To conditionally, I could have renamed the columns, and in fact, best practice would be to do that so that this would be, month-delivery, quarter-delivery, et cetera. I'm not taking the time to do that here, but that would be a best practice, and I was going to mention that later. So you brought it up closer to the start of the presentation. But yes. You do want to be intentional about renaming that so there's no confusion. What month am I looking at? Am I looking at delivery month? Am I looking at pickup month? So good question. Yeah?
Is that what your two different SQL views do that you showed us real quick?
I could do that in the SQL view. I don't think I did in this particular example here, but yes, I could do that. I could have everything renamed in that view so that it would just come in with the name for each role. Yeah, and that would be best practice. Yeah. The reason that I use the DAX is it's bringing the data into the model once and then referencing that same data in the two different ways, rather than bringing all of the data in twice. And again, like I said, for a small table, it's not a big deal. If you had a larger role-playing table, then that would be more important.
So it's the footprint of the model that's effective, that's the primary benefit?
Correct. Correct. The footprint of the model is the benefit there. All right, so there I have the data, the number of deliveries, and this is going to be by the delivery or pickup month, I'm sorry. And then I'm going to create another visualization that is the number of deliveries, and we'll do that by delivery month. Notice that I've got a column labeled blank. What's happening there is I have pickups that were lost in transit. Packages that were run over by a wayward robot in, galactic delivery, or were set too close to the antimatter engines and, just disintegrated. So there are some packages that are lost in transit, so they do not have a delivery date attached to them. I don't really want to see that in my analysis right now. That's not germane to what I'm looking at. So I'm going to add a filter here on my status for this particular visualization and say that I only want to see the delivered. And now everything lines up a little nicer there. All right, so that's looking good. Let's go ahead and turn on labels real quick on each of these. And I'm going to now add some slicers because I want to be able to look at things one quarter at a time to do my analysis. So we'll start out by adding a slicer here for the pickup quarter. Add a slicer, size it a little better. And I'm going to rename that. Again, this is where my naming, unique naming would have helped out. So I'll do it manually here. And I could look at Q1 for 2015, and I can see that it actually sliced both. Why is that? Well, that's because my lower chart is going to show me those deliveries that were picked up in Q1 of 2015. So it's going to slice both of those. So I can see that in February there were 32 that were picked up, and 25 of those actually made it to their destination. So February was not a good month. We lost 7 packages. Not real good. Let's go ahead and add another slicer here based on the delivery quarter. Rename that real quick. And if I make the same selection here, Q1 2015, now, instead of showing 32 that were picked up, I'm only showing 25. Again, it's those darn lost packages that are messing me up. Those lost packages don't have a delivery date. So because I'm filtering only on Q1 2015, they aren't showing up. I need to add in the blank here in this slicer to get back to what I know to be accurate, 32 picked up and 25 delivered. So we need to be careful, even though we've got these role-playing items, they're going to interact with each other. So if we want to slice by both of our different role-playing tables, there's going to be some interaction because they're coming back to the same record in that main table, that fact table, if you will. So we have to keep that in mind as we're creating our visualizations and doing our analysis. Yeah, you had a question?
You're also assuming that all the packages picked up in February were delivered in February.
Correct. This is only showing pickups in February and now deliveries in February. So it happened that they didn't overlap. We didn't pick up on the 28th and deliver on March 1st. At least it didn't appear that way in the way that the data played out. But yeah, that's right. But that is also correct. So we have to keep in mind, even though they're separate roles, they're still going to interact depending on how we use them.
I got a question.
Yeah.
At this point or anytime in the future now, if you add a column to the original date table, will it be automatically, or transformation or something, automatically picked up in the calculated table?
It will, because all we said when the next time we refresh, it will. Because all we said was this table equals that table, that physical table. This calculated table equals that physical table. We didn't give it a list of columns or anything that we wanted it to include. So it'll bring it in. Good question. All right, let's go ahead and create another visualization here. And we're going to call this deliveries by planet. And we've got our delivery count again. And we'll start by taking the pickup planet. You can see I had fun coming up with planet names. And we'll turn on data labels there just so we can do some easy comparison. Okay. And I'm going to change this title to pickups by planet. All right. So let's create a new visualization now. We'll start with delivery count again. And we're going to slice by our delivery planet. And we'll turn on data labels again. We'll call this we've got deliveries by planet. So we're looking at our two different roles again. Now, we can see that over time here, overall time, we're not looking at any slice of time at this point. We can see that 168 packages were picked up on RAM Camine, and 214 were delivered to RAM Camine. But our marketing department wants to know how many packages were picked up on RAM Camine and delivered to RAM Camine, delivered to the same planet. How many were picked up and delivered on the same planet? So One of the things that I could do here with my pickups, I could add my delivery planet as a legend on that visualization. So that does show that of all of the pickups on Ramkameen, 70 of them were delivered to Ramkameen. Ramkameen is in the yellow there. But it's very hard. Do you remember how many total pickups we had on Ramkameen? Everybody remember? Yeah, we have to do some quick math here to add it up. So that's not really a great visualization for our users. That's not really what they were looking for. So let's get rid of that. We're going to actually have to get a little fancy here and do some DAX in order to get what our users are looking for. So I'm going to make sure I've got, grab my DAX here first. Make sure my delivery table is selected, and I'm going to create a new measure. And this is the DAX that we're going to use for that measure. So the measure is called delivery count using pickup planet as the delivery planet. I want to take whatever planet is in context as the pickup planet, and I also want to filter using that as the delivery planet. Again, my goal is it was picked up and delivered on the same planet. It never left the atmosphere. To do that, I use a DAX function called treat as. Treat as allows me to take values that came from one context and have the query engine use those values as if they came from another context. So in this case, I'm going to take all of the values from the pickup planet table, and I'm going to use them as if they were coming from the planet column in the delivery planet table. And when it does that, when it uses them as if they came from that planet delivery table, the relationship that is in place to that planet delivery table is going to come into effect and filter the counts coming from my main table. Make sense? It's as if they came from there. So when I hit enter here to create that new measure, there it is, and I'm going to add that as another value. So now I can see, let's try that again. Now I can see very clearly that of the 168, that was the number we couldn't remember, that were picked up on Ramkameen, 70 of them stayed there. The context for that column, as DAX is evaluating that measure, the context is Ramkameen from the pickup planet table. So it takes that value, treats it as if it came from the delivery planet, and filters down to be just those delivered to Ramkameen. So I get the 70 count instead of the 68. Make sense? All right, good stuff.
Brian,
Yeah.
you just said in your filter clause for the calculator, you just said where planet, like a planet delivery equals planet, you would get a DAX error on that, right? Instead of the treat as. You just had a simple.
Right, yeah. Well, I could set a filter there. I could set a filter clause there if I wanted to, if I wanted to hard code it. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
Yeah.
I would say, like, why couldn't you just say planet pickup, planet equals planet delivery?
Yeah, that would give me an error.
Right.
That would give me an error.
There's more than one value.
Correct. Yep, that's not going to work for me. I have to use the treat as to get that to work. All right. Any other questions on that?
If you wanted to see it as it relates to another planet, could you add a filter to that same tax calculation? Just add a filter for like, or it does not equal
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely.
over some other
Yeah.
specific.
Well, I'd have to get a little fancier there because this is creating a set, using. Yeah, I'd have to get a little fancier there to say not equals. But yeah.
You just subtract one from the other? Like the two calculated measures, like the base one, so
Well, sure.
everything else?
Sure, I certainly could do that. I could create, yeah, that would be the simplest way to do that. Absolutely. All right. So now, rather than just what was looking for what stayed on planet, I want to do more of a matrix to see what was picked up on one planet and then where it was delivered, what planets it was delivered to. So we're going to do my delivery count, and I'm going to slice that by pickup planet. And we're going to make that a matrix, and then across the top for columns, I'm going to put my delivery planet. So now I can see that of those pickups that were made on Ramkameen, I can see 14 were delivered to Alframu and 14 to Bolaron, et cetera. There's my 70 that stayed on Ramkameen. So I've got everything split out there. That one was easy using our table solution for the role playing. Any questions on that? Okay. So what we came up with our multi-table solution, the pros were it's pretty easy to understand. The user can look in the data model and see, yep, here's the date for pickup, that table, here's the table for delivery date, pickup planet, delivery planet, it makes sense. It works well to create that crosstab that we just did. That was slick when we want to use those two roles in the matrix to create rows and columns. On the downside, it can be confusing if we don't relabel the fields, just like we talked about. Which month is it? Is it the delivery month? Is it the pickup month? So we want to be intentional about that, take the time to do that I didn't do just now. We can get inaccurate results if the wrong role-playing table is used. So that can be an issue if users aren't careful about which role-playing table they select. And we needed to use that treat as in order to get some multiple role-playing dimensions on the same axis. We wanted that context to serve as both the one role and the other role. So we needed to use treat as to do that. Tips for the multi-table, use the calculated tables for efficiency when you're creating those role-playing tables. And again, rename the columns in the role-playing tables to clarify things for the user. Any questions on the multi-table solution? Okay, let's then go on to the DAX solution. So one thing we can do, just to take a step back and look at this a little more, we've got our model, we've got the two relationships here. What if we just said, well, we'll manually pick which relationship is active? Okay, we'll just do that. That'll be simple. So if I go here and we'll create our visualization, I've got the delivery count, and I'm going to slice that by month. And so if I want to see the see things by pickup, then I make sure, pickup date, then I make sure that this relationship is active. If I want to instead see my visualization the other way around, I need to come in here. I can inactivate this one, and then I can come to the properties of my delivery relationship, activate that, come back here, and now I'm slicing things by delivery date because there's my blanks. I know that it's delivery date there. So why couldn't we just have users do that? Well, one, the users would rebel, right? So that's now, but then you can say, oh, well, look, there's actually this Manage Relationships button right here in the toolbar. So instead of going through all that, you can just deactivate the delivery date and inactivate the pickup date and close. There, simple, right? Right? Our users will buy that, right? Until we need to do some of that additional analysis that we were trying to do where I want to slice by both roles at the same time, both pickup and delivery planet, or look at both dates. So then that solution breaks down. So I called this kind of the half solution in between here. But what if, instead of forcing our users to do that, what if we could do that programmatically? And that's the DAX solution that we want to take a look at. We're going to actually create measures that activate the relationship within the measure to get the various counts that we want. Yeah?
But if you do that, will you still be able to pull out, well, I don't believe you'll be able to pull out the quarter slicer for delivery and pickup, right? Because they're in the same table.
Let's look at that. So let's look at that. So, because yes and no. Yes and no. So we're going to go ahead and create some new measures, and I don't want to type that because it will be painful. So we're going to create a new measure in the delivery table, and this is the DAX that we're going to use for that. Is that big enough for everyone to see in the back there? No? Okay. How about that? That work? Okay. So we've got our delivery count measure, but we're going to use the wrap that in a calculate function so that we can provide a filter. And filter is going to seem kind of odd because this isn't actually a filter in the traditional sense we might think of it. We're actually using a function to turn on a particular relationship. And that's going to not necessarily filter, but it's going to affect the context that this measure is calculated in. So it is filtering in a way. It's a little different use of that, but a very valid way to create a filter parameter within that calculate function. Yeah?
I'm just curious, since you're defining the relationship and the use relationship statement there, do you still have to have it as an inactive relationship in the model?
No. So I'm creating it here on the fly. Oh, no. Is that right? No. I'm sorry. Thank you. Yes, I do, which seems odd because I got it wrong. But yes, because it looks for it to activate it. So yeah, thank you for correcting me on that. I haven't played with that for a while. So yes, I do need to have it there. That's just how it is.
If they've changed that, that would be awesome.
Yeah, wouldn't it? Would it? Yeah. You. What's that? Yeah, right. Right, yeah. For lookups, you can define relationship on the fly, but not for use relationship. So thank you. So what I'm saying is I am in the delivery, or I'm creating a relationship between the pickup date column in the delivery table and the PK date, the primary key column in the date table. It's going to look for that relationship that has those two endpoints, and it's going to activate that while this is being calculated in the context or for the context of this calculation. So we'll create that. There's my deliveries by pickup date. And we'll create our second one here. So same deal. The only difference is we're working with the delivery date rather than pickup date. So now if I we'll use the pickup date, deliveries by pickup date here, and get rid of that one. And we'll create a new visualization for deliveries by delivery date. I'm using month as the slicer on each one, coming from the month table, but in this case, it's using it in the context of the relationship to the pickup. In this case, it's using it in the context with for the delivery date. Questions on that? So now, instead of looking for a particular table to use as the slicer, as the row context or column context, my user is going to look for the appropriate measure to get the role that they want out from the date table. Questions on that?
Which one do users like better? In your experience.
It depends. And we'll talk more about that as we go on through this solution. Make sure I'm on time here. We've still got a half hour. Yeah. We'll look at some of the complications of this solution here. And in some cases, that might tip you back toward the multi-table solution. It kind of, as we'll see as we go on, it depends on the complexity of the filtering that needs to be done between the different roles. Personally, I kind of like this solution if the analysis is fairly simple and straightforward, and again, we'll see in a moment how it gets complex. But you know, it does take some getting used to, especially if you've come from the multi-table solution in the past. This is a paradigm shift. So yeah.
So if you had rollover security on these tables, this is not possible. User relationship and row-level security are incompatible with each other.
Okay. I guess, yeah, I haven't played with that, so, okay.
So when you showed us treat as, is that only when you use multiple tables? Or can treat as be used?
Well, and the only reason I needed to use treat as was because I wanted to have both roles on the same axis. I wanted that month to serve both as, or yeah, to serve both ways. So that was the only reason I needed that treat as. You may never run into a situation where you need that in the analysis that you're doing.
So, Brian, given our background with the multi-table approach,
Yeah.
multi-dimensional, that'll always work if you repeat that pattern. Arguably, it's a little cluttered. It's a lot of extra stuff in the model. But what
Correct.
are your thoughts about that being the go-to pattern?
Let me continue on here, and then we'll come back to that. Because there are some things that this pattern does very nicely. So let's get to those, and then we can judge more. So let me find my place in my notes so I don't miss anything. Okay. So let's do the same thing on the planet side and get those roles created. So of course I need to do the same thing with my planet role playing. Create a new measure for the planets by pickup planet, deliveries by pickup planet, and then we'll do the same thing for deliveries by delivery planet. Okay, sorry, my syntax is getting a little muddled at that resolution, that font size, but same deal. Just setting up a use relationship there. So let's go ahead and create a new tab here. This is going to be my deliveries by planet again. Okay. And I'm going to have my deliveries by pickup planet. And I'm going to have my deliveries by delivery planet. And then we're going to slice that by planet. So that worked very nicely to have that table as my context here for the columns, and then my measures determined whether to use that as the pickup planet or as the delivery planet. So that type of analysis works very slick in this context. We should be. There's 214 and there's 168. So that's what we got before. If we're not, then you let me know, but I believe that's correct. The other thing I wanted to show here, kind of along this in the same vein, if I add my quarter slicer and select Q1 2015, again, the slicer slices each of these, and the measure determines how that quarter slicer is being used. Is it the pickup date? Is it the delivery date? So we've got 32 that were picked up in February and 25 that were delivered. I'm trying to remember why that's different, but I'll come back to that. What's that?
How would that look if you renamed quarter to like delivery quarter?
Well, you mean if I renamed it here to delivery quarter?
Well, we talked about renaming the columns to make it more.
Right, that was only in the multi-table solution, not in the DAX solution. So I'd want to keep the generic names in this solution. So this works, again, this works well. Now I can use one slicer and I can get it to play both roles based on what measure is being selected. So these are the scenarios where this measure approach or the DAX approach to the role-playing dimensions works very well. Yeah?
Can you clarify that last statement, that you can use one slicer and get it to play both roles? Because wouldn't your slicer, isn't it only connected to the pickup date technically?
Only one of those connections is active, except in the context where this is being calculated. So, yep. So in this measure here, which is my pickup date, it's using the quarter one as the pickup date connection, and here, when it calculates this measure, it's using it as the delivery date connection.
But unlike the two-table solution, if you wanted to see items picked up in Q2 but delivered in Q3, you'd hit that wall, right?
Then I'd hit that wall. That's exactly right. All right, other questions on that? Yeah.
Well, I don't know whether this is the proper time, but back when I think it was that gentleman we talked to, he mentioned having the actual tables on the SQL Server in the view. You touched on it a little bit. I mean, this is I've been thinking that I have to do a whole bunch of reports, basically using the same data, the same view, the same date things, all, and I don't want to have to recreate this stuff over and over and over again. So if I just use, get my view set up for, the basic date fields that I am going to be pulling into all of these reports that I have to generate, and as the different tables dates that I,
Yep.
and use the dimensional one.
The multi-table one. Yep.
The multi-table dimensional one, I would still have to do the relationship and still have just one primary with multiple secondary
Correct.
links.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Relationships.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Other questions? All right, let's look at another analysis here. Suppose that, well, let's go ahead and try it here. I'm going to create a new tab, and we're going to have my deliveries by pickup date, and then I'll grab my deliveries by delivery date, and we'll put a month there. That all works great. Wonderful. So now we're going to change this to a matrix. Whoops. There we go. All right. And now I'm going to add planet on the columns of the matrix. All right, that's fine. I want to see, how that breaks down by planet. But what planet is that? Is that the delivery planet or is that the pickup planet? Well, it's whatever relationship happens to be current right now, happens to be active right now in the model, but the user doesn't know that. We don't want to make the user go figure that out. We're back to our, changing the relationship again manually. So if we have multiple role-playing dimensions and we want to incorporate them both into the same visualization, we've got some more work to do. And what I'm going to do is jump ahead here. I'm going to open my completed version here so that we don't run out of time. But what I actually have to do now is come up with measures for each possible cross of the planet role-playing dimension and the date role-playing dimension. So I'm going to have 4 different measures that I create. If we look in my delivery table, and I did do some organization, so I've got a folder here, but I had to create a measure for deliveries by delivery date and delivery planet, deliveries by delivery date and pickup planet, deliveries by pickup date and delivery planet, and pickup date and pickup planet. So I had all the possible combos, so then when my user created these matrices, they would know that, okay, in this matrix, I'm using my values here. I'm using pickup date, pickup planet, delivery date, and pickup planet. And then down here, I'm using the delivery planet. And I obviously did some renaming here so my columns looked a little nicer. But again, if I hover over, I can see what the underlying measure is to create those values. So I had to go through, and what these look like, if we pull one up here, is I had to add a couple of different filters. We'll just zoom in. So I had to add a second filter parameter to my calculate So I could specify the relationship for the date, and I could specify the relationship for the planet for each one of those combos. So now my DAX solution is starting to get kind of cumbersome, kind of complex. It still works, and if you name things properly, it still functions. And then, as you saw what I did, after I created each of these measures, I went to my Model tab here and selected each measure, and then I specified a display folder so that all of these got organized into a single display folder. Otherwise, I just have measures everywhere. So as soon as I start doing this, I want to start adding some organization to the measures. The other thing that we had done nicely in my multi-table model was to create this matrix by pickup planet and delivery planet. This becomes very tedious in the DAX solution because I can't take planet and put it on both columns and rows of that matrix. That won't work. And even if it did, I don't have any way to say, well, if it's coming from a row, it's the pickup planet, and if it's coming from the column, it's the delivery planet. I can't do that in DAX. So what I had to do to create this was actually create a specific, I had to cheat. So what I did is I created a measure for each planet, for each column that I was creating. And I said, okay, we're going to use the pickup planet relationship, but then I'm going to hard code the delivery and say these are deliveries that went to this particular planet. And I use the abbreviation here rather than the names. So I had to do that for each and every one of my planets here, and then I had to add all of those into my visualization, and obviously I did some renaming again to create that. So yeah, now it's really cumbersome. So if this is the type of visualization you need to create, we saw how slick that was with the multi-table version, and if I'm fortunate here, I only had 6 different planets that I had to create measures for. If you had 100 of whatever items in your particular role-playing dimension, then you're going to be at it a long time. Not going to work very well. All right, so let's come back here. Yeah, please.
If you go on the previous page,
Yeah.
so would it make sense to use the relationship in any of these measures, even though you're using the active relationship? I mean, if the user changes by accident the active relationship.
Right. So in this case, because I went and created my measures so that I was specifying both, I'm not depending on whatever the active relationship is. Yes. Correct. Correct.
So yes.
Yeah, I want to do that. So, yeah.
The relationship is changed by accident.
Right. Then it's not going to mess me up. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Specifically for the 8 dimension, what do you find you use the most? Which approach?
Mainly the multi-table, but I will say that's because I come from a multi-dimensional background, so that's what's more natural for me. And yeah, so I probably haven't given the DAX approach a chance, a fair chance. But again, you need to look at, hopefully this will give you some feel for where each of them are stronger and weaker, so you can look at the types of analysis that you need to do in your models and make that differentiation. So just to reiterate here, On the DAX side, the pros are that it reduces the number of tables in the model. So the model, at least at the table level, appears less complex. And we could easily create slicers and chart axes values that play multiple roles. We saw that. So that's what works well. What doesn't work well is we need to create these specialized measures, and the more complex our analysis, the more we need to create. Things can become complex if the table has multiple role-playing dimensions. So we saw we had both the planet role-playing dimension and the date role-playing dimension off of that same deliveries table. So that's where things got really complex. And it's difficult to create that crosstab using the two roles. That was the real killer. Tips if you're using this solution: clearly label the measures created by those DAX calculations. The names get kind of long, but I need to, and there's probably some abbreviations maybe I could use here that reach a common understanding with my users. To shorten them up a little bit, but you need to provide enough information so the user can pick the correct measure for the correct role. Use folders to organize all of these measures that result so that it's, again, easy for your users to find their way around. All right, and I will put up the completed version of both of these PBIX files. I'll make sure that those get uploaded, so you can certainly pull those down and take a look at all of the DAX that's contained in there, and all of the pros and cons are in the slides here. I'll take questions, but just to do the housekeeping, be sure and do your evals, use those measures to find the appropriate place, and again, there's my contact information. Thank you for staying late and for finding your way over to this side of the street. I appreciate it.